Hey YouTube, in this video I'm going to be talking about how to dry phase. So a lot of people have this problem where they don't have a dry phase. They think they do, but usually because they're breaking at the hips, they don't actually have a dry phase, or it's not as efficient as it could be because maybe they are breaking at the hips, which essentially means, like, say this is their legs, this is their upper body. They're supposed to be in this position, this position, which should be triple extension. But what's essentially happening is they're in one of these, one of these couple of positions, so they're not completely straight like they would be if they were like this. And the lower the angle you come out of the blocks at like this, the better and longer your dry phase should be, as long as you do it properly. Like I said, there's four main ways to get a good dry phase, and before you even take the first step, the very first thing you need to look at to have a good dry phase would be the blocks. You need to ensure that your blocks are set up correctly. There are a couple of checklists that you need to go through to make sure that your blocks are essentially perfect for you. So the first thing would be, is the block that's in front the right block? Is the block that's in front in the block setup the one that you'd push off with when you're trying to sprint? If that's not, well, obviously that's the very first thing you need to do. If you don't know which block is which foot should be the one in front, it's really simple. Stand up and then just fall forwards. Just keep falling forwards. Just let gravity do its thing, and you're gonna catch yourself naturally because you're not gonna go face first. The foot that moves forwards in front would be the foot you're supposed to put forwards for the blocks. So for me, if I was to do the same thing, my left foot would move in front, so my blocks start on my left foot. Then from there, depending on the blocks you use, the setup would slightly differ because of the way the actual blocks themselves, not so much the pedals on the blocks, are designed. So don't ever, you always get told to count one from the line, so where you put the block, and then count two from the line for where you put or just one from where the block is where you put the front pedal, and then two from where the block is where you put the second pedal. Don't do that. Always count. Forget the block even exists. And I like to do it like this. I put the front pedal of the block on the very first setting, and then I'll count two to two from the line, and I'll put the block either there where my foot ends up being or slightly behind it. I usually go slightly behind it, and then I'll take the back pedal and I'll go free from where the line is on the other side of the block, and I'll put that down there. And then from there, usually people you play with the height of the pedals. The easiest height to do would be to just have it on the lowest setting, but a lot of people go for the front block has the lowest setting, and then the back block has the second lowest setting, so it's just literally one above. And then from there you just get in the block, and then you make sure it feels comfortable, sprint, try it out a couple of times, and if that feels comfortable, obviously that's all you need, that's all the work you need to do. If it doesn't feel comfortable, well then just keep shifting the block forwards and backwards. Usually the front one's fine, unless you feel tightness in your leg. It's usually fine. The way to tell whether your block is incorrect would be if your knees aren't behind your arm, because your front knee anyway, because the back knee would obviously be behind your arm. Your front knee should be like this. This is my knee. Your front knee should be like this in the block. If it's here in the blocks, then you've got a problem. It's kind of hard to understand, but in front of my arm would be literally in front of me. Like I'm supposed to have my arm down, so everything under here is behind me, and everything above my arm is above me. And with your knee, you want it to be behind you, like here. You want to be able to, if you was going to rest your entirety of your weight on one hand and just to be able to pass along your the white line and not touch your knee. If you touch your knee, then you've got a problem because your knees is too close and you're going to be too tight in the blocks, and you feel that in your front leg. So if that's what's happening, you want to pull back the front block so you don't have that problem. Usually you feel used to being tight if this is a problem, but you'll quickly realize that you'll feel uncomfortable, but it's much easier to sprint if you're more loose in the blocks, and only thing you have tense is your tendons. And then from there, the next question would be, once you've got everything down, are you getting the right amount of height in the blocks? When you're front, it's good to take a picture of this or a video because you're going to be sprinting. take a video and just make sure that your front leg is at a 90-degree angle, with this angle, like the flexion point being from your knee behind it. So like, let's see, this would be my calf, and this would be my quadriceps and hamstrings. You want essentially this angle in the blocks, like this. And then you want something similar to this angle. I mean, this is a bit wrong, kind of hard to do, but you want a 120-degree angle in a block for the back leg. It's literally just slightly wider than the front leg. Usually that's quite easy to do. The real problem tends to be with the front leg, so there's not much reason to worry about the back leg unless you literally have both blocks right next to each other, in which case quite obviously you have a problem, because the back leg is supposed to be at the back, making that angle. Then from there, making sure that you actively push into the blocks to load your tendons. And imagine this is the block, and like this is the back of the block. You want your entire foot to just lean against the block, so you can push off. I mean, this is probably the worst angle, like this, then you push off. If you're just on your tiptoes, you're going to be dispersing force, and you won't be able to deliver as much force as you possibly could have into the ground, which is obviously not what we want. Then from there, making sure that you have the right hip angle. You don't want to be you don't want to basically have your torso perpendicular to the floor. You want to have, like, this is the floor, this is your torso. You want to have your bars slightly in the air, and then from there you just push off with one leg. Don't jump both legs, push off with one leg, but you'll naturally apply force to the back leg anyway, and you push off. And then you just want your foot to stay as low to the back foot, sorry, to stay as low to the ground whilst you apply as much force as you possibly can with the other foot. So for me, it'd be my left foot applying force and my right foot, the back foot, just basically almost dragging across the floor. You don't want to drag across the floor, but in fact, you might not even be able to, but basically just forget it even exists and just switch legs. And then from then, when you're out the blocks, make sure your form is wide, and you continue, and you just make sure that you're in triple extension. Like I said before, you want to make sure that when you come out of the blocks, your body is going to probably be in the blocks at this position. And then when your foot starts to apply force, I mean, this is your torso. When your foot starts to apply force, your body is going to angle itself up like this, and then go a bit. And as you sprint more, you're going to rise a bit more into your upright. This would be the next thing that you need to worry about for how to drive phase, other than the triple extension, which is quite important, because if you're not triple extended, you're not producing as much force as you could have, and that would be your shin angles. You want to make sure that you're not overstriding when you're sprinting, especially in the blocks, because if you overstride when you're sprinting, what you'll notice if you're recording yourself is the angle you touch the floor in. Yeah, your body should it's like, say this is your shin, your body would probably land on the floor like this, and then it will shift down a bit, and then you'll go forwards a bit more. So in this case, your foot would go back. But if you land like this, your foot can only really just turn a bit like that. And what's going to end up happening is, if you're originally going to be coming out of the blocks like this, but if you overstride on your next step, or you overstride on the very first step, you're going to come out of the blocks and you're going to be like this, or you're going to break at the hips. Regardless of which one it is, you're not producing as much force as you could have been. Justin Gatlin gets away with it because he's Justin Gatlin. Most people aren't Justin Gatlin, so they wouldn't be able to pull off overstriding and still succeed whilst they do it. So making sure that you are conscious of your shin angles, you're not overstriding. And this is why ankle mobility is really important, because the more mobile your ankles are, the lower you can have your shin angles. As long as you can have a drive phase for, then you obviously just want your shin angles to slowly rise, so that you gradually come up until you reach top speed, and then you just go. And then the next thing is, with that gradual coming up of the shin angles, you want to make sure that you stay patient with your acceleration. Don't rush your acceleration, because time is your best friend in this situation. You want to just let each step happen and give you a decent amount of force and push off as you go along, a bit more, because the more impatient you are of your acceleration, the more energy you're going to end up using during your drive phase. And 50% of the entirety of your energy can be used just trying to get to top speed if you rush it. So making sure you're patient so you don't have to waste all of that energy is obviously going to be very important. Now we've got out the main parts of how to do the drive phase. Now let's actually look at like the slight technicals. People like to say that the first 7 steps are the most important, but before that would be the first 3 steps. And the way they like to describe it would be you have really low shin angles as you're driving out, so nothing above your knee for the first 3 steps. If you wanted to, you could basically scrape along the floor. You don't want to because that's friction and that's going to slow you down, but you basically could. And then from there, the 2 steps after that would be at your knee level, literally kind of like at top speed, but not so much. Then at your knee level, actually, in fact, if you was at top speed with your shin angles at your knee, that would be a bit of a problem. But when you're driving through to go to the next step, it would be at your knee level. So you want it to be like around there. Then the 2 steps and the subsequent steps after that, you want your calf and your hamstrings to be touching every single step after that. You want the highest shin angles before you get to front side mechanics as possible, and you just want to continue that for the rest of your race. And obviously you're naturally going to end up getting up until you're completely tall and upright, and then you just want to continue your race out of the drive phase. And as long as you do everything right, you're probably going to win the race. As long as the race isn't you like being a 12-second sprinter going up against a sub 10-second sprinter. In that case, you don't stand a chance. But that is the way they do it, and you just need to get better at it over time, and then you'd eventually be able to potentially get down to sub 10 seconds. And yeah, that's how you do the drive phase. If you like the video, do you like the video? Got questions? Tell me in the comment section. Any video suggestions, put those in the comment section too. Make sure to check out the description, because anything I forgot to say in this video I put there already. If you like my content, subscribe, turn on the bell. I make videos every 2 days at 1 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. If that's not your time, then go check, confirm to make sure that you know when I'm posting. But if you really just want to make it easy for yourself, just smash the bell. Yeah, that's me.